Back in 2001, nobody could have predicted that a movie about street racing and stolen DVD players would launch one of the biggest franchises in film history. The Fast and the Furious wasn't just a movie, it was a cultural explosion. From the cars to the soundtrack to the unforgettable characters, it captured the early 2000s like nothing else. But what happened behind the scenes is just as wild as what you saw on screen. From unexpected casting decisions to dangerous stunts and surprising inspirations, here are 10 crazy facts you probably didn't know about The Fast and the Furious. 1. It all started with a magazine article. The entire Fast and Furious franchise traces back to a single magazine story. In 1998, Vibe published an article called Racer X, which dove into the gritty underground world of New York street racers and their tight-knit, adrenaline-fueled community. The piece painted a vivid picture of a culture built around speed, loyalty, and the thrill of late-night competitions. Producer Neil H. Moritz was so intrigued by the article that he quickly bought the rights, recognizing its cinematic potential. That decision became the seed for the very first Fast and Furious film. From those pages came a movie that introduced audiences to a new kind of action: fast cars, daring stunts, and a unique sense of family. Without that one article, there might never have been the billion-dollar franchise, the global phenomenon, or the iconic characters that fans know today. Sometimes, one small piece of journalism can ignite an entire cinematic universe. And speaking of unexpected beginnings, the cast almost looked very different.
That's too bad about Dwight. Having the feds raid your house the same night you make the team.
2. Paul Walker wasn't the only choice for Brian. Paul Walker became the face of the Fast and Furious franchise as Brian O'Connor, but landing that role wasn't as straightforward as it looks in hindsight. The producers considered several big names, including Mark Wahlberg, Christian Bale, and even Eminem. Each brought a different type of energy: Wahlberg with his street-tough edge, Bale with his intensity, and Eminem with his raw attitude and cultural influence. In the end, it was Walker who struck the perfect balance. His easygoing charm blended seamlessly with the toughness needed to play an undercover cop in the world of street racing. He brought a likability that made audiences root for him, whether he was chasing criminals or sharing a quiet moment with Dominic Toretto. Looking back, it's almost impossible to imagine anyone else in that role. Walker didn't just play Brian O'Connor, he defined him, turning the character into the emotional heart of a franchise that would last for decades. But if Brian's casting seemed tricky, finding the perfect Dominic Toretto was even harder. 3. Vin Diesel almost turned it down. Vin Diesel wasn't a big star in 2001. He had appeared in Saving Private Ryan and Pitch Black, but he wasn't a household name. When the script for The Fast and the Furious landed on his desk, Diesel wasn't interested at first. He thought it was just another generic action movie. Director Rob Cohen personally convinced him that the role of Dom Toretto could be something special, a mix of outlaw charisma and brotherly loyalty. Diesel eventually agreed, and it became the defining role of his career. And while casting was key, the real heart of the movie was, of course, the cars. 4. The cars were stars. More than 200 cars were used in the filming of the first Fast and Furious, ranging from Dom's legendary Dodge Charger to Brian's flashy lime green Mitsubishi Eclipse. But here's the wild part. Dozens of those cars were completely wrecked during high-octane stunt sequences, sacrificed for the sake of realism and adrenaline-pumping action. The crew knew that if the crashes didn't feel authentic, audiences wouldn't buy into the world. To pull it off, the production didn't just rely on Hollywood magic. They brought in real mechanics and street racing experts to build, tune, and detail the vehicles. Every nitrous system, every decal, and every engine roar was designed to reflect the underground car culture as accurately as possible. Adding to that authenticity, many of the extras filling the street race crowds weren't traditional actors at all. They were real racers from the California car scene. Their presence gave the movie a raw edge, blurring the line between fiction and reality, and helped cement the franchise as the ultimate love letter to car culture. And, speaking of authenticity, some of the movie's most thrilling stunts were very, very real. 5. The train jump was real. One of the most famous moments in the movie is the final race where Dom's Charger jumps over a train. Amazingly, this wasn't CGI, it was a practical stunt. The crew actually launched a car over a set of train tracks with real timing. It took precision, coordination, and nerves of steel to pull it off. The fact that it worked on camera gave the film its gritty, adrenaline-fueled edge. Of course, making a movie this intense came with some unexpected drama. 6. On-set tension was very real. The chemistry between Paul Walker and Vin Diesel is one of the reasons the first Fast and Furious movie works so well. Their dynamic as Brian and Dom gave the story its heart, balancing loyalty, rivalry, and brotherhood. But behind the scenes, things weren't always as smooth as they looked on screen. Reports suggest there were real tensions among cast members, particularly as egos clashed and the franchise expanded into a billion-dollar juggernaut. In the early days, though, that same competitive edge actually fueled the film. The subtle rivalries and one-upmanship on set mirrored the relationship between Brian and Dom, making their interactions feel raw and authentic. Whether they were racing for respect or trading heated words, the performances carried an energy that came straight from reality. That blend of fiction and real-life tension helped lay the foundation for a franchise built on family, loyalty, and conflict, proving that sometimes a little friction off-screen can make the sparks on screen shine even brighter. And if you thought the title was always set in stone, think again. 7. The movie almost had a different name. Originally, the film was going to be called Redline, but the producers discovered that a 1955 B-movie already had that title. Instead, they bought the rights to the title The Fast and the Furious from the estate of director Roger Corman, who had made a completely different racing movie with that name in the 1950s. That simple decision gave the franchise one of the catchiest names in film history, and while the title came from the past, the inspiration for the story was pulled straight from the streets. 8. The undercover cop story came from real life. Paul Walker's character Brian wasn't just a Hollywood invention. His story was loosely inspired by real undercover cops who infiltrated illegal racing rings in the 1990s. The filmmakers wanted to balance car culture authenticity with classic undercover cop drama, and it worked. Fans didn't just get roaring engines and street races, they got a story of loyalty, trust, and betrayal. And sometimes those lines between fiction and reality blurred even more.
Oh, shit.
9. Some of the stunts were done by the actors themselves. While stunt doubles handled the most dangerous sequences, both Walker and Diesel did many of their own driving stunts. Walker in particular was a true gearhead. He loved cars in real life and did much of his own wheel work. This passion bled into the movie, giving it a realism that fans could feel. When you saw Brian shifting gears and pushing his car to the limit, that wasn't just acting. It was Paul Walker living his passion. And finally, no one could have guessed what the future would hold for a little street racing movie.
Big place, lots of names, lots of faces.
And you?
10. Nobody expected a franchise. When The Fast and the Furious premiered in 2001, the studio saw it as a one-off summer flick. Nobody thought it would launch a global franchise spanning decades, bringing in billions of dollars and redefining action cinema. But here we are, more than 20 years later, and what started as a movie about stolen DVD players and drag races has become an epic saga about family, loyalty, and high-octane insanity. So there you have it, 10 crazy facts you didn't know about The Fast and the Furious 2001. From real stunts to near casting changes, from title swaps to car carnage, the behind-the-scenes story is just as wild as the action on screen. And maybe that's why the franchise still resonates today. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about fast cars, it's about the passion, the risks, and yes, the family that made it all possible. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment about your favorite Fast and Furious memory, and subscribe for more nostalgia-packed stories. And let us know, what classic show or movie would you love us to cover next?